Hey, Mark, I am so excited to talk to you about today's topic. I'm real estate coach Frank here with Cool Banker Realty, and I got the one and only Mr. Mark Bradford of the Mark Bradford Realty Group extraordinaire. And just an amazing job that you do, Mr. Mark. I'm so excited about this topic. You were discussing a property. I guess you're about the list, and the homeowner said, what was the big question that he asked?
What are we going to list
Should,
it for?
yeah,
How much are we going to get out of it? Should we do anything to it? All those kind of things. So
yeah.
yeah, we're definitely talking about that topic today because every seller right now wants the most for their money, but sometimes they're not willing to put that money in, or they're putting it in the wrong spot. So, I think that's the biggest thing. And again, one of the biggest questions we get is, what does the current condition of the property look like in reference to what I'm going to get for the home? So one of the questions we get asked a lot is, hey, what's going to give me the biggest return on my investment? If I am going to go and update my home, what should I be focusing on? So I focus on three things. So you're going to see the biggest ROI on three items, and that is your flooring, your kitchens, and your bathrooms. Those are the three things that are really going to be the eye catchers. Painting's a huge plus as well, but you don't get a huge return on that because if you spend $5,000, you're not going to necessarily get 20 grand out of that. But if you, update your kitchen, throw in, if you have, Formica countertops, or if you've got tiled countertops, go into a granite, go into a quartz, something like that, spending $3,000 on a slab or $5,000 on a slab, you may be able to see a huge uptick on that with painted cabinetry and stuff like that. We talked to a client yesterday that currently has their house priced a little bit higher than we recommended. So they're going to come down. But we also recommended, hey, you want to have the finish out in the kitchen. They have the builder grade cabinets, but don't have any pulls on it. So literally for less than $100 for the entire investment, we're going to get pulls put on the entire kitchen, all the cabinets in the kitchen, all the cabinets in the bathrooms, and all the cabinets throughout the rest of the home for $100, and it's actually going to look like it's finished, which to me is the most important thing. Because again, someone walking into a home, they can see potential, but not everybody can. And so you're trying to make people see what the home is rather than trying to see it finished. I hope that makes sense.
Oh my gosh. And I love the example, again, $100 in pulls. Could that be $1,000 difference in the sale price? 2,000? Does it just help to get the home sold? You just never know, right?
You never know. I mean, you could spend as little as $20 on just small little things like flowers or vases, small little decor that's really going to make it feel like home for somebody. But if you don't actually put that look into there, so like we give our clients this little piece of paper right here, just a front and back piece. It has examples of what the front exterior should look like, what the kitchen should look like, countertops, bathrooms, bedrooms, everything like that. It gives them a breakdown of exactly what that should look like just for the basics to get your home photo ready. Because when people are looking at your home online, that's the first impression. And if you have people looking at your house and it's not well taken care of, it's not clutter free, there's going to be a big result in no showings. There's going to be a big result in low ball offers because people aren't necessarily going to want to walk through it. Can't tell you how many times we've heard from agents that, oh, I walked into a house, thought it was fine, and there was dog pee or dog urine or dog poo all over the stuff because it just wasn't taken care of.
Well, trust me, Mark, I see those properties every day. I am a student of the market. I'm constantly looking at properties, and I hear you loud and clear. Those pictures tell a tale, and it can stop somebody from, even going and setting up the appointment. It just turns them off. And I have seen photos of homes that have turned it off. I do know that about you is that you spend a lot of time on the prep prior to going on to the market. So you're having these conversations, and really when you mentioned to me, hey, in its current condition versus what the market could hold for this property, it really caught my attention because I do get, conversations on a daily basis, a lot of times with newer agents. The homeowner may say, well, let's just offer them a discount, for the work that needs to be done. And I think you're more in belief that you should do the work if you really want to see the greatest return rather than just offering a discount number. Is that accurate? Or I know you're classic, that depends.
Yeah, I mean that's the hard part. My answer is always going to be it depends on the house itself. If you've got good bones, then maybe giving a discount on something is the way to do it. New carpet, new flooring, whatever it is, because you've also got to think of it from the standpoint of timing. If I'm going to put a house on in October, okay, if I wait a month or so, it's not necessarily going to make a big difference. But if I'm thinking about putting the house on in the spring, and now all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, hey, now we want to go and put in new flooring. We want to go and put in new carpet. Yeah, that's going to bleed into, because who's doing the work? Are you doing the work? We've got a client over in Garland right now that said, hey, we want to put in and finish out this flooring. And we're like, okay, that sounds good. How long is it going to take you? And they're like, oh, about 8 weeks. And we're like, okay, so we're talking about putting this house on in April. It's March, and you're going to not be available to put this on till June. Yeah. Okay. All right. They're doing it so they can save a little bit of money there. But yeah, it really just depends on the situation. Sometimes we say, hey, let's get the experts in here. We can have this knocked out in a week and a half. It's going to cost a little bit, but we're going to see that return. But there's sometimes that it's just not the place to be.
Yeah.
We want to make sure we're maximizing whatever investment that is, whether that be the material cost and the sweat equity, or if we're paying somebody to do it because of the time.
Well, that really complicates the equation a little bit, because real estate is a moment in time. You'll say that on a regular basis. Hey, at this moment, there's X amount of properties, and this is what they're going for. But we've seen that shift very quickly in the matter of days or weeks. And if you're talking about months to do the work, I think that's where builders get in trouble sometimes. They're planning, at this moment in time, but that house isn't going to be done for 6 months. And, now all of a sudden the market changes and they're panicking. So I know these renovations are, a big deal, and it's a big question, and I just love it. I had this scenario, and I want you to look at it. Let me throw this up on screen, and we'll just kind of chat about it a little bit. So I got this 3,000 square foot home. We're looking at the average price per square foot in the market in good condition is about 200 a square. Ours needs update. The bones are good. I'll use your word. The bones are good. Mechanicals are good, but just the cosmetics, really need updated. We're thinking maybe this should be at 180 a square. That means there's 60,000. If I put the 60,000, does that mean I can go up even higher than that? Does that mean what happens on this equation?
Well, I mean, that's a great question, because you're talking about $20 a square foot there. So like you said, $60,000. But on a 3,000 square foot home, what are we improving? Are we talking about redoing the entire kitchen? Are we talking about just the flooring, just the cabinets, just the countertops? Are we talking about repainting the house? So there's a lot of factors in there that, let's say a perfect example, this house might be built in 1986, okay? And now you're talking about trying to bring a 1986 home up to a 2022 standard. But if we're talking about the average price home, you're probably still in that same realm of age of home. So not all of those houses are going to be this 2022 standard that a lot of people are looking for. Some of them may have been updated, so that's where you get that average price per square foot. But in that number, I'm also going to be looking not just at the average price per square foot, but what's the max value per square foot? If we're talking about the average houses, is that 3 houses, or are we talking about 10? So if I've got a larger group of houses that allows me to have a range from 220 a square foot to 195 a square foot, but because the average is actually 200, then that tells me that max per square foot at 220 is probably that highest that I'm ever going to be able to see it. And so does it make sense to spend $60,000 up front on the home to be able to possibly then price it at the average or slightly above? It might. But if we're talking about we've got 3 houses and they're ranging from 205 to 195, so we only have a $10 a square foot margin there, and me spending 60 grand up front, I may hesitate on that a little bit. Let the buyer come in and make that adjustment whenever they're ready of making it their own touches. Now, everything always depends on what the buyer and the seller agree on and what the seller wants to do. We've got one actually here right around the corner that's going to be hitting the market, and their house is a little bit dated and they're going through a difficult situation right now. And they're asking, hey, we want to get the max dollar per square foot. And we're like, max dollar per square foot for the current condition of the home is not feasibly possible. But if you do this, this, and this, we could get you close. But I can't guarantee you I can get you all the way up there, because that you doing these 3 items is still not going to be equivalent to the house that's sold at the max per square foot. So we've got to make sure we're keeping those things in line and not just doing a blanket statement. Hey, does this work? It can. But when are we hitting the market? How long is it going to take us to do those remodels? Are we doing it the way that we're recommending, or are we doing it based on the seller's taste? Because a lot of the time, whenever a seller takes on that cost to do it, who's making the decision of what they want it to look like? The seller. And the seller's lived there for 40 years. Seller may not have the same taste as the buyer that's coming into the market fresh with the same style that everybody's looking on social media at and going, wow, you have this open concept living kitchen room. Well, this one doesn't. Oh, this one has quartz and porcelain countertops. This one doesn't. So you've got to make that perspective as well. So sometimes even making, take that $60,000, do a fresh coat of paint everywhere, nice white, beige, nice and neutral color scheme. And that may be able to see the best return in that situation, so that you're spending 10,000 of that number versus 60,000.
Well, I think you nailed it, where that consumer, your seller, is sitting there. Should I put my money into it? I know you have some contractors that you've worked with that believe so much in the product, and they help. Coldwell Banker came up with a program called Real Vitalize, where they're willing to put up to 3% of the sale price. So if this was a $400,000 home, they may be willing to put $12,000 of that dollar up to help that homeowner get the most money. I love programs like that. That's money that doesn't necessarily have to come out of the seller's pocket up front. And the win on that is that 12,000 could, depending on if you hit the right things, generate 20, 30, even $40,000 in return. I'm a big believer that condition is really important. I know you spend a lot of time trying to get your folks to get that home in the best condition they can in the circumstance that they're in. But there's options for folks. And I love that you create that conversation for them and give those the options.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, if we're not having those conversations, then the real estate expert isn't doing their job. We've got to make sure that the seller understands what the current market is, not just price wise, but also condition of home, updates, improvements, looks, to be able to maximize that dollar. You've got a lot of flippers out there right now that are coming in doing a full remodel and selling it for top dollar because they're coming in at the lower price. Well, who has more equity in the home? A home flipper that bought their house for, let's say, 280, and now they're going to resell it for 400, or the homeowner that bought the house 40 years ago for $70,000, haven't done any updates. Well, guess what? Let's just say they improved that by $70,000. So their total into that house is 140. They're still coming upside right for the same dollar amount. So it can make sense in some cases. It just depends on the perfect situation. We've got to evaluate everything on a per property basis and a situation for each individual seller. That's why we do love having in-person conversations.
Well, I love having you on. Thank you for sharing. We could have gone so many different directions. Even as you just said that, I'm like, oh my gosh, we got these instant offers out there that people are accepting on a daily basis. And all they're doing is giving away the equity of their home for somebody else. These are not for nonprofit companies. These folks are making money, and the money they're making is the homeowner's equity that they have in the home. We just need to, have the right guidance. That's why they need a guy like you, Mark, to come in, help them with those decisions, and help them to win in the market. Last thing, are we seeing anybody win in this market?
Oh yeah, I mean, I just got a client into a house that they will be walking in the door, only paying their down payment. We got the sellers to agree to pay all closing costs as well as buy a 2-1 rate buy down. So essentially, the seller is giving up $17,500 just for my buyers to walk in the door and close on the house.
Wow.
So
yeah,
all
every
day.
day, man. Every day, I high five and Mark on something he did that nobody else has done. I'm just so proud of you. Thank you for sharing. Like I said, I've got 3-4 other questions and directions we'll go. Watch for us. Follow us on all the social media platforms at Mark Bradford Group, at Real Estate Coach Frank. We are here to serve. Thank you again for watching. Share it. Hit the notifications. Bye, guys. Bye, Mark.
Bye.